This is from the Petty Corner. I'm Petty Diana, and today I have the new middleweight champion here with me, Branden the Butcher Bordeaux. Welcome back to the Petty Corner.
How's it going?
Good. Congratulations. You pulled off the upset, which I don't think it was an upset to you, but
No.
he was the champ, so that's pulling up the upset. You were celebrating over the weekend, and we did see Anthony Blackburn, another
Yeah.
Michigan champion there. How was your party, and what was it like having Anthony there?
Oh man, the party turned out amazing. It was good just to have, you know what I mean, the whole community. We had, a ton of people show up, and then having Blackburn drive all the way over from Detroit, you know what I mean? That was really cool of him to do that. It was like took a 3 hour drive just to get here. So for him to come over and hang out with everybody, yeah, it was awesome to meet my people, you know. Like I said, we had a whole community. I got a whole community behind me, so it was great to be able to kind of get everybody together and celebrate, after a big win like that, like your inboxes are usually flooded and it's kind of hard to get back to everybody. I've been trying to get back to everybody, but it was nice to be able to kind of throw a party and everybody be able to kind of come in, where you could talk and chat and everything like that. So it was a great time and it was really good to have Blackburn there as well.
And I don't know who we need to talk to make this happen, but there's two champions from the same state, only a couple hours away. So maybe we need to see a match in Michigan soon.
Yeah, it would be cool to see if if they could get the commission going here and everything. Like myself and Blackburn. There is Dan off from the show off season 3. He's from Grand Rapids, so he's actually a little bit closer to me. He's about an hour away from me, but you know what I mean. In total, there's only three of us. There's only three Michigan guys that are on the roster, and two of us are champions. So, I mean that's pretty cool. I was saying to Blackburn the other day, actually, it's like it kind of makes sense that we're good at power stuff. We're from the only state that's shaped like a damn hand.
I love it. Okay, and then in the show press conference, you spoke about what winning the title meant to you, and that you couldn't wait to get home and give your kids the belt. Can you tell us about that moment? I know we saw some pictures of it, but like, what was that moment like for you when you first saw them and gave them the belt?
Yeah, it was amazing. My mother-in-law actually they had the kids for a couple days, so my wife was out there with me. So they're the ones who picked us all up from the airport. So, walking out those doors and putting all of our suitcases in the vehicle and then being able to turn to my kids and hand them that title. There was no feeling like it. Like I had said, leading into things, they were such a huge motivating factor. Those guys and all the kids that I coach, you know what I mean? All the people that I have supporting me. But yeah, especially my kids, like I said multiple times that, they watch how hard I work, that they see the things I'm doing, they see what I was chasing, so for them to be able to see me come home with it, you know what I mean? It speaks, it speaks a lot to them if they want something in life, as long as your mindset to it and you're dedicated to it and you're obsessed with it, you can achieve anything. And that was the example that I was trying to set for them. And, to be able to hand them the belt, it was absolutely amazing. One of my twins, I said this in another interview. One of my twins that sat there, so we took the in-laws out to dinner and everything when we got back. One of my twins sat there and just was like kissing the belt for like 20 minutes, and it's funny
Aw.
because yeah, they all fight over it. They all want to hold it. They all want to carry it. I mean, if we're going somewhere and it's I'm taking it with me, like, oh, I want to hold it. So now all four of them want to fight over the title. So it's cool though to see them so intrigued and so happy and so just giddy about the whole situation. It's definitely even more motivating. Not now we've been saying I've got this one here now. You know what I mean? I've got four kids, so I was like, well, now I have to defend at least four times, so each kid can have a belt.
Yeah, or you're gonna come home from work and they're gonna be having their own power slap competitions just to see who gets the belt that day.
Yeah, and they do that. I've seen a couple times. I've seen like when my brother's been here, I've looked out in the yard and I've seen my son out there. My brother be holding the pad and my son's over there smacking it. Or all four of the kids will be in a line and they're all over there hitting it and practicing. So they're definitely your kids definitely watch you very closely. And I've also said that my twins have like an Alexa that they'll sometimes watch, and I've had times where we've just been sitting on, I can hear them from the other room being like, Alexa, play my dad's power slap on YouTube, and it's hilarious. And I'll be like, hey, baby, I don't know who your dad is, and they'll be like, hey Alexa, play Brandon the Butcher Bordeaux's power slap on YouTube, and then they'll sit there and watch everything. So it's a cool, I'm sure it's inspiring to them. These kids, they get on YouTube and stuff, and then to see see your dad on there, or you know what I mean, to get on there and see the competitions and stuff. You know, it's awesome to be their hero, and they're always watching. So I'm always, you know, trying to set the example and never be the example. I try to set the example for everybody, and I set the bar high. And you know, like I said, I just want to set the example for everybody in general.
I love that, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Also, I noticed that you still have some black eyes, which
Yeah.
indicates that I haven't talked to you since then. But is your nose broken? Did it break?
Yeah, so actually clearing up quite a bit. There is a small fracture in there, nothing terrible that, you know, obviously had to be adjusted or replaced or anything like that. So they just had a good 8 weeks of healing, and I'll be perfectly fine to go. But yeah, there, you know, it got me in there pretty good. It's not too bad. Like I said, it's gotten a lot better actually, but it's still a little sore to the touch. But you know, the black eyes are starting to clear up a little bit. They were a little darker there for a few days, but it's starting to all come together now.
So no surgeries, just kinda wait
No,
and let it
no.
heal?
No, yep, it'll heal on its own. No surgeries, no nothing like that. So, you know, it's good. You know what I mean? Now I'm obviously not gonna be out for too awful long or anything like that. So it's nice not to have to, you know, deal with any of that.
Yeah. Have you watched back the video yet? Because I don't know if you knew this when you're on stage, but there was, like, blood that squirted out of your nose.
Yeah, I've actually, I've watched a match back like 25 or 30 times. Actually, I just got on Isaiah's ass the other night because he was in some comments trying to talk shit, and he hadn't even watched the fucking film back. I'm like, how can you sit here and talk shit when you haven't even watched the match back? I've watched a match back like 25 or 30 times, so I know exactly what has happened in all of it. But yeah, I know it was wild. I've had a couple people reach out to me and say, dude, I've never seen blood squirt out of somebody's nose like that. I ain't got any idea either. And I did ask him though, because with that, you know, kind of how it was, like I was kind of figuring, I'm like, that's got to be like a puncture hole. Is the only kind of thing that really made sense for the blood to be able to, you know what I mean, squirt out like it did. So I had asked the, you know, the doctors about it, and they said sometimes when you get hit like that, it could be like pressure, or it could be like a blood vessel or something like that that just pops in there. So, but it was, you know what I mean, it was kind of weird to see it kind of how it shot out like it did.
Yeah, that was wild. And what do you think is next for you? Do you think that you and Isaiah should get the trilogy right away? Or, you know, you have Darian who's on a streak right now, and you have the Chief who's also on a tear right now. Do you think that someone else in the division deserves it? Or maybe the old champion, John Davis? Or would you like to settle it once and for all, get the trilogy over with Isaiah?
Yeah, so I actually just seen an interview that John was doing as well, and you know, I kind of think Power Slap does me a favor by running that trilogy back. You know, I think it's going to be with everybody in the division now. I know I have the ability to put everybody out in one, and I think everybody's in trouble. So it doesn't matter who's next. Like I said, I think they'd be doing me a favor by giving me that trilogy. I'm due to win the toss in that. It's going to be one and done again. But one and done with Isaiah, or one and done with John, or one and done with Chief, or one and done with Darren. It's going to be the same thing with all of these guys. And you know, I mean, if they think they can compete with me, you better at least try to outwork me, and none of them are ever outworking me. So no matter what, you know, I said no matter what happens next, I just want the next baddest motherfucker. That's what I said up on the stage, and that's what I've said to the, you know, this whole thing is I want the next baddest motherfucker every time. You know, what I mean, you don't create a legacy by sitting here trying to take the easiest matches, and that's absolutely not what I want is the easiest matches. So if it's a trilogy with Isaiah again right away, so be it. Or if it's somebody else, you know, so be it as well. The outcomes is going to be the same, and this title's not going anywhere until I decide to walk away from the sport.
Love it. And when you and Isaiah first went against each other, and I had both you guys here on the petty corner, you guys kind of made a bet, and you said the loser buys the other one's shoes. Did you ever buy him a pair of shoes? And then did you have another bet for this match?
Yeah, we're actually gonna have to talk about that because we he made a comment about it. I said, all right, double or nothing for the next one. And now this one turned out like it did, you know. So I guess we'll have to revisit that and see. But you know, like I was saying, you know, back to the who's next thing, it was, you know, I firmly believe anybody who watches a match in December and watched here in March knows that I was absolutely dominating Isaiah in December. He caught me with a good shot. That was actually my own fault, and then I just turned around and dominated him again. So, you know what I mean? If everybody wants to see me doing like I said, with everybody, I think it's a complete domination on my end against everybody. You know what I mean? So whether it's Isaiah or whether, you know, whoever it's going to be, it doesn't matter. Like I said, this title's not going anywhere.
Well, maybe the next season of Road to the Title will be filming soon, and we could have you and Isaiah coach, and then the first ever trilogy in Power Slap history be the finale. But who knows?
Yeah, there's been some rumors kind of going around about, the possibility of season four, them possibly doing away with it and finding some other ways to bring talent in. But yeah, I think you know what I mean. The storyline there, is what's hot for everything. The way things have gone, and I just think that story is definitely burning hot. And it's something that they could go with at any time, really.
Yeah, I agree. And how soon do you want to come back? I mean, we don't really know publicly like when the next Power Slap might be. It could be, next month. It could be a couple months. But do you have a
Yeah.
time frame on when you want? And obviously, you have to have your nose heal first. But do
Yeah,
you have a
yeah.
time
I
frame?
mean, I'm always ready. I always stay ready. You know what I mean? So whenever they want me, I had heard rumblings or rumors about, a few weeks back about something possibly happening in April, and now I'm hearing that that's not going to happen, and I don't know if there's anything really scheduled for May. So, I'm sure 99% sure we'll obviously have a card for International Fight Week, at the end of June. But I also know that there's other titles that have to be defended as well. If that's the case, I want to. If that's the case, then I want to coach. You know what I mean? I love coaching. I've thrown my name into it multiple times. I've had those conversations with Erica and stuff. So whenever they need me, I'll be ready. But if I'm not part of, the event in June or whatever it may be, or whatever it is after that, I definitely want to coach. You know what I mean, and stay right in there with everybody. And then I know that they're doing some training camp stuff here or there. So it'd be nice to. I'm sure I'll go out and help coach one of those as well.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I love that they're bringing those camps in, by the way. We saw a lot less fouls this time around, so their
Yeah,
plan worked, and it just really is able to get, new people more experience because,
yeah,
it's kind of terrifying for them probably just to go up on stage, and that's when the
right,
most fouls
right.
happen in your first couple matches.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I said that as well. I think it's a really good idea to do those. You know what I mean? Invest into the practice stuff a little bit. And you should see a lot cleaner matches. Not everybody, as they should be, just practicing and doing everything at home. You know, um, to be able to bring some of these new guys in and be able to put them through a training camp and stuff to be able to get advice from some of us guys who have been up there. You know what I mean? Or have the experience. Um, yeah, it definitely helps a ton. You know what I mean? The more practice, the more everything that you can get in, the more training that you can get in, the better things are going to be. So, the more training camps, everything that can be done, absolutely, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and they brought champs in. They brought the champs
hmm
in for the last one, and now you're a champ, so I don't see why they wouldn't give you a call.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I completely agree. I've had some conversations with them about, what I mean, coming up here. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll be out there in the coming months. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I love it. And then for the people who didn't get to watch Road to the Title and, are just like newly becoming fans and just saw like the last 2 to 3 matches and stuff, they might not know who you are, where you come from, and like your background. But we did see you on Road to the Title season 2. And do you want to break down, I guess, a little bit like why you got into Power Slap and like what motivates you to be here?
Yeah, so I was actually big into MMA. I was undefeated prospect in MMA, and um I'd taken some time off. We had our first kid, so it was kind of time at that time. I mean, there wasn't a lot of money in the local MMA games, so I had taken some time off, gotten a job, and I'd been working for a couple of years, and I figured, I still had goals and things that I wanted to accomplish. So after a couple of years, I went back and I was like, maybe it's time to, get back into the MMA game and everything. So, and as I was actually training to get ready to come back, I broke my back. So I had to have back surgery. I had my L5S1 fused together. Um, In between my discs, you have like this cushioning in between your discs. Well, they went in there and cleared all that cushioning out, and I put a plastic spacer between my discs. And I've got two screws that go up, and I got two screws that go down. So I have four screws in my spine. And once that happened, the MMA dream was over with. It's so hard on your body and the total body, workouts and everything that it takes to be able to compete at the highest level. Because when I get into something, I'm not just getting in to be half in, half out. If I'm going to be in it, then I want to compete for world titles. And there was just no way in hell that my body was going to be able to hold something to be able to compete for a world title. So I was actually had surgery. Um, while I was laying around recovering from surgery is when season one of the show had started. So I had watched it from I watched all of this from the very first episode. While I was laying there recovering from surgery, my son actually watched the whole first season with me. And as I'm watching, I'm like, you know what, this is maybe something that I could possibly still do with the situation that my body's in, and work for Dana and still be involved and all that stuff. So and one thing led to another, and now here I am a year and a half later being in power step as a world champion. So, it goes back to, you can achieve and you can do anything that you set your mind to, but you have to be dedicated to it. You have to be obsessed with it. You can't just say, "Oh, I want to do this," and it's going to happen. No, you have to go make it happen. And that's the type of things that I've always done in my life. Is if I want something, I always make it happen. I have the work ethic. I have the ability to be able to do those things. So if there's something out there that I'm chasing or that I want, I'm going to be all in on it. And I said that on the show. Um, I said I'm all in on this, and I'm in it to be a world champion. I'm not just here to take part. I'm here to take over, and that's exactly what I've done.
I love that. I think that's a great message too because you were going through something really hard, and it
Yeah.
can help inspire people to
Well,
to
and
put to put in the work and make it there. But
that
did you ever envision like it happening that quick? Because essentially, like in combat sports, it takes people years, but here
yeah.
you are, a year and a half later, and you're at the top.
Yeah, that was the thing when I had that surgery and stuff, is I didn't know if I would do anything athletically or, anything ever again because of the situation that comes with it. If you have back problems, you kind of understand that, I mean, everything that you do involves your back. So it does, it makes things a lot harder. It makes my training a lot harder. It makes everything, like all of the situation a lot harder. But another thing that it has done is it's made me even mentally stronger. It made me even more, mentally resilient towards these things because of the shit that I've been through. Or, the things that I've gone through have completely formed me into who I am today. And as much as that back surgery and everything sucked, like, and it sucks to deal with, some of the shit that comes with it. I do firmly believe that it's helped me kind of get to where I am today, and it's also helped me, be as mentally resilient as I am. And if you go up on that stage, you know how much of this game really is mental. A ton of this game is mental. So, I mean, I firmly believe that, my mental game is very, very, very good because of the situations and the things that I've been through.
I love that so much. What is one piece of advice that you could give someone who is either just starting out in the sport or wants to join the sport?
Yeah, so somebody coming in, and first and foremost, take every opportunity that they're willing to give you, and work your ass off. Nothing's going to be handed to you. You have to work for everything, and the harder you work, the more things that you're going to achieve. And like I said, also say yes to every opportunity that they're willing to give you. That's also helped me get in the situations that I am in now, is because I've said yes to absolutely everything. There hasn't been one thing that I've said no to them. I mean, I've went out as a backup multiple times. I mean, I went on to the show. I was actually coming into Power Set before the show. I was supposed to have a match, and a guy failed his medical exams, and I went as a backup then. I've taken matches on 17 days, title matches on 17 days notice. So, go out and coach. Absolutely anything that they're willing to offer you, always take it. And, what I mean, like I said, always work your ass off. If you want to be successful in this, and you want to get to being a world champion, you absolutely have to work your ass off. Nothing's going to be handed to you, and you have to put the work in, outwork everybody.
I love it.
Yeah, I firmly believe that I'm the perfect representation of this whole sport. We're trying to legitimize this as a professional sport, and everybody knows, I mean, that I work my ass off, I mean, to get to the positions that I'm in, what I mean? If we're gonna have a legitimate professional sport, it can't be something that, people are trying to roll off the couch and do. It's something that you have to take extremely serious. You have to train, what I mean? You have to do all the right things. You have to follow all the dietary stuff. I was so locked in on this last match that, I mean, I really didn't even cut weight. I started, that match was December 6th. I kind of just stayed where I was at weight wise. Um, I mean, there for a couple months. So I really dialed in, and, I mean, those are the type of things where I feel like that I'm the perfect representation for this thing. The work that I put in, the obsessive dedication that I have to all of this, it really shows that, if you put in the time, you put in the work, and you're as obsessed as I am, well, then you can get to this world title too. And I mean, I did do it pretty quick. Um, but it's testimony to all the hard work that I've put in, and also the film study. You know what I mean? I study film like crazy. I'm able to pick people apart, and that's why I was so confident going into the first one with Isaiah, was because I study everybody's film. You know what I mean? At this point, I know him like the back of my hand. So, what I mean? That's why I was also saying that Power Slap would be doing me a favor by giving me that trilogy, because I know Isaiah so well. You know what I mean? That at this point, like I said, I feel like I've dominated him twice, and I would absolutely dominate him the third time for sure.
I think that's an amazing example for all the strikers too, because you never know when you're gonna get called. You guys got
Yep.
called on short notice for that fight, and then if you stay ready, then you don't have to get ready,
But
and you can be ready for all those opportunities.
yeah, you're exactly right. You know what I mean? If you're not staying ready, and then all of a sudden, especially one of these guys who have been waiting around for an opportunity for quite a while, they can literally call, anything can happen in in these games. They could call you on a week's notice, and all of a sudden they call you on a week's notice, and now you're 15, 20 pounds too heavy. You know, Now you got to be like, oh well, I'm not gonna make weight. So it's just best to stay relatively close. You know what I mean, to what your weight is gonna be. Even if you've been sitting for a little while, you know what I mean? You should always have your weight, stay within 10 pounds of your weight class. So that way, if or when that phone call does come, you know what I mean? You have no problem making weight. You don't have to, you don't have to worry about, oh shit, now I got to cut all this weight, or I got to cut all this weight wrong. Yeah, it's not the easiest thing being extremely dedicated and staying on a diet, year round. Trust me, I do it. You know what I mean? So it's not the easiest thing, but if you want to be at the top of this game, you know what I mean? You have to make sacrifices like that. You have to be that dedicated to things. You know what I mean? And if you're not, well, then guys like me are going to continue to run you over. And, I'm going to do that with everybody.
Well, Brandon, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I am so happy for you and your family and all your kids and everything
Thank you
that's
so
happening
much.
for you right now. And congratulations again. I cannot wait to see what's next for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And you're welcome here anytime.
Thank you.